Welcome to Debutante Renegade. On today's show, I'm going to be talking about Allen versus FARROW. I'm going to be talking about Woody Allen and is he a creepy molester or not? But first, if you're not subscribed already, please hit that subscribe button. Hit the little notification bell next to it so you never miss a video. Give me a thumbs up. And if you have a question, topic of your own, send me an email at debutanterenegade@gmail.com. For this topic of Woody Allen, let me start by saying that my interest in this story, in this case, came about in, I believe it was 2014, when Dylan Farrow wrote an essay on her experience with Woody Allen as a child, where she came out. She came out and talked about what happened to her when she was a girl with Woody Allen, and I thought it was a really beautiful, powerful piece that she wrote. I thought it was really interesting, really intriguing. I think she and I are of a similar age, and I went through a similar experience when I was a girl. You might recall in my trauma episode, which I'll post down in the description box below, I talked about one of my childhood traumas being my mother falsely accusing my father of sexually molesting me. So this whole Woody Allen case was and has always been extremely interesting to me, because in that same time period in the world, I went through the same thing. I went through a court trial in a case where my mother was accusing my father of molesting me. Now, interestingly enough, in my case, my father was innocent. He was being wrongly accused, and my mother was using me against him in this way. So when I first learned of this case, and being a lover of Woody Allen and his films, I was leaning toward the fact that this was probably a similar thing to what I went through. That once again, there was this crazy mom accusing this loving dad of doing this terrible thing to their daughter so that she could get custody, because that's exactly what happened in my case. And so I really kind of dove into this story, this case, even though Dylan wrote this incredible essay that I was like, wow, that's really beautiful. I'm like, was she brainwashed to believe this happened to her? So this case became really interesting to me because of what happened to me at that same time period in the world. My mother falsely accused my father of doing exactly what Woody Allen was accused of. So I was leaning toward Woody Allen's innocence and Mia Farrow being the guilty one, and Dylan having been brainwashed. Even though I did really enjoy her essay, and I thought it was incredibly well written and thought provoking, it did make me very curious about the case, and I took it upon myself to look into the case, and I actually, because court transcripts are public record, I think most of the time. So I was able to find the court transcripts on a website back in 2014. And I read through the trial. I read through the court transcripts. And so I was able to read through the evidence that was presented, and really see what both sides had to say, and then see what the judge ordered. Now, of course, this wasn't the criminal investigation against Woody Allen. This was the custody hearing, and the evidence as it was presented in that particular hearing. But it did address what had happened to Dylan. Now, to my surprise, when I went through and I read these court transcripts, it became apparent to me that Woody Allen was in fact guilty. Now, mind you, I was going in with the bias of having been through the same thing myself, where my father was innocent and wrongly accused by my mother. So I had been leaning in that direction. And then after I read the court transcripts, it moved me over to the other side, and I realized that he was, in fact, guilty. And I realized that, maybe part of me was always a little skeptical about him for the mere fact that he had an affair with his stepdaughter. That he was already sleeping with one of his daughters, per se. How far of a stretch is it that he would, do something disgusting with another young girl? If he was willing to do something disgusting with one young girl, why wouldn't he do something disgusting with another? Granted, there was a bit of an age discrepancy. 17 is different from 7, or however old Dylan was when it happened. But, the fact is that the guy is clearly a creep. Only a creep would do what he did with his stepdaughter. That is a disgusting, vile thing that he did. Only a creep would, help raise a girl from the time she was a girl, a child, into a young woman, and then have sex with her, behind her mother's back while having a relationship with her mother. Like, there's no way to justify that as anything other than disgusting, awful behavior. So we do know that he, out in the open has done something disgusting and awful. However, that doesn't necessarily mean he did another thing disgusting and awful. And could she have been so angry and spiteful that she wanted him to go down for that? Absolutely. And there are women that are like that. My own mother is like that. However, when I dove into this case, I found that that is not at all. That is not at all the case. I knew it when I read the court transcripts all those years ago, well before this HBO documentary came out, and before the Me Too movement even. And I even posted on social media, I posted on Facebook, that I had come to this conclusion, and what a shame what Woody Allen has done. And I vowed to never watch one of his films again. And I have not since 2014. And it's been tough because I've seen some good ones come out and I've had to refrain from watching them. But I knew I couldn't support this person or his art any longer, regardless of his talent, regardless of his genius. Doesn't matter. Couldn't support his art. And then the Me Too movement happened. And I think that opened the floodgates, and it paved the way for women to be able to come forward with these types of allegations and be believed, really, for the first time, I feel like, in our history as women. So this has been really an incredible time. And I think that people started to listen at this point. People started to listen because they started to see that there was a pattern of these powerful men doing these things and always getting away with it. And I think people started to listen to Dylan's side. And now, of course, we have this incredible documentary on HBO, Allen versus FARROW, that went over their entire story. And I think the documentary was done in an extraordinary and beautiful and powerful way. I highly recommend it. It's fascinating. And I think that you will walk away from it seeing Woody Allen's guilt, not because it warps your view, which documentaries absolutely have the power to manipulate you, but as somebody who read the facts for myself before being swayed by any documentary one way or the other, I already knew the truth, and I feel like the documentary portrayed things in a very rational and clear way. And the fact remains, it shows the facts, it shows the truth, And I think that it's powerful, and I think it's really amazing to get to hear the victim speak for herself in her own words. And I think that, in witnessing her and her experience, you can't deny Woody Allen's guilt any longer. The guy is guilty, and he belongs in prison. So I would encourage everyone out there to do your own due diligence, read the court transcripts, watch the documentary, and just because I am a filmmaker, I love films, I love good movies, good stories. I think Woody Allen is extraordinarily talented and brilliant. I will not watch any of his work. I boycott it. I won't do it. I will not support someone who has violated a child in the way that he has. And not to mention, he's had a lot of things with a lot of teenage girls as an older man. In his 50s, he was sleeping with teenagers frequently. This really wasn't his first offense. Like, there's something wrong with him. I think he needs help. And the guy does bad things. And because of his power, he's gotten away with it. And I don't think he should get away with it any longer. I think it's up to us to, boycott his work and not support him. So that's what I have to say about that. I encourage you to do your own due diligence, do your own research, listen to all sides, all points of view. And I feel confident that any person who does their own due diligence out there will see that this guy is guilty. I feel very confident. If you've read the court transcripts, if you've seen the documentary, if you've listened to all sides and you still presume he is innocent, I would love to see what your source of that is. I would love to know why, and if you, like me, agree that the guy is guilty, let me know in the comments if you are boycotting his films, if you've stopped watching his work since realizing his guilt. Let me know if you're with me. So that's it for today's episode. If you have a topic of your own or a question, dating, relationship, sex, parenting question, send me an email, debutanterenegade@gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram at debutanterenegade. All the good things are in the description box below, so you can read through there with helpful episodes, ways to contact me, etc. Please subscribe, give me a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a beautiful rest of your day.